The biggest thing I see, Rocky, is the business owner is really, really good at what they do, but they are really bad at running business. And what I mean by this, things like they're afraid of the numbers versus embracing that. That's the story of your business. The math and the data should be driving every decision, not your feelings and you being the producer of whatever you do. That's the biggest mistake I see. There's a big disconnect between that. Knowing their numbers, knowing the data, and making data driven decisions versus being the technician. They're in there doing the thing. So that CEO, that chief everything officer, look, get someone to do your numbers. If it feels overwhelming, have them explain it to you in plain English once a month so you can make data driven decisions. Track your metrics, your KPIs, your success metrics. Those things make your life easier, not more difficult. That's what I see, the biggest challenge.
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast. We believe the purpose of business is to make lots of money. We'll show you how to scale and grow your profit and cash flow, all while working less. We're a big fan of the ELF model: easy, lucrative, and fun. If you're the backbone of America, you deserve to be well rewarded for that. Listen in to see how other business owners are doing it and how to maximize your profit and cash flow. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Malcolm Reid. It's great to have you join us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Rocky. Thanks for having me.
Excited to learn from you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, I'm recognized as, the coach of the business coaches. We provide them everything that they need, like a business in a box, to really run their entire coaching business and the small businesses that they support. Me personally, look, I grew up in the slums of Baltimore and come from the school of hard knocks, right? You grow up in the slums, you learn lessons that business school just can't teach you.
There's one thing that always makes me wonder. So just even you take a guy who runs a drug business.
Yes.
I'm like, these guys are damn good. They got distribution, they got marketing, they got scales, they got cash moving. Like,
Yeah.
if they would just do a legal business, it'd all be good.
Oh, Rocky, that was me. When Domino's first came out with the fast delivery of the pizza, I emulated it in the drug game. Unfortunately, sent me to prison. But the point was, you're right. If you growing up in that environment, a lot of times you do what you see. And I just was fortunate enough that I got out of that environment and I could take those lessons and apply them to the real world and do it.
And that's the key. I mean, but and the other half of that point is business isn't that difficult if you'll just do the basics and make it work and ensure that it happens the way it's supposed to happen. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about you, because a lot of what you talk about is actually on the marketing side. And that's one of the struggles, I think, for a lot of business owners, is figuring that out and getting it down. And one of the things you talked about is scaling sales without a sales team. That sounds kind of counterintuitive. How do you scale sales without a sales team?
Yeah, it's a couple of ways you do it. First of all, when you obsess over fulfillment, making sure that what you sell, you deliver on, well, those same people who deliver on it are the best people that can actually position it and offer it. Salespeople, Rocky, think about it. Their motive is the sale. So a lot of times they don't necessarily, even though they may be good people, they may have values and ethics, but most of the time their compensation is tied to selling. And so that's their motive. So when you remove that and you tie their compensation to the success of the person you're talking to, well, the same person who's actually introducing you to that product or service becomes the same person to help support you through it. It changes the whole dynamic.
It does. It's funny. When I first started this business, I did a partnership with someone else because they were looking for fractional CFOs, which is what I do. And I was still getting myself going. I'm like, yeah, I'll work with you. What I found, though, is their clients weren't necessarily a fit for me because they were selling a different message than the message I was selling. I was providing a ton more value than what their message was. So we had pricing mismatches and so forth. But that's an important thing. And on top of it, and this has nothing to do with business coaches, I see this across every industry. You talk to the business owner and they tell you how wonderful everything's going to be. And then you sign up with them and they hand you an intern to handle your account. And you're like, wait a minute, I just paid you a lot of money. Is this the person I'm really going to be working with?
Yeah.
And your attitude shifts. So having all of that stuff, I think, makes it a lot better. But I have a question on that, because what I have found is a lot of people who deliver
Mhm.
are not so good at sales.
Yeah. There's something that we operate off of. It's called the conversion formula. And I'm going to tell you about it for why this matters. See, you and I can't force our solution down the throat of the marketplace. You can only harness what the marketplace wants. So the first step of this is there's a problem that the marketplace already has that they don't want. And the second piece of that is they're looking actively for a solution, Rocky. They can't find it. So here's our responsibility. If you can connect with, here's the problem, meaning this is my headline. This is what I start with. We call it the captivate. If you fascinate with the second thing, which is the solution, that's attractive. It's like when someone sees that you understand clearly their problem and then how to solve it from an emotional level, the next thing to do is to educate them, meaning providing them proof, right, that your service or solution is far greater than the competition in every way. And by the way, you do that along the buyer's journey. You don't force this when people aren't ready to buy. And then you make an offer that's so compelling they can't say no. And again, that doesn't mean a sale. So what it means is that 1 to 3% of the people, Rocky, in the marketplace are ready to buy, but the majority aren't. So the 97 to 99% that are out there gathering information, that's who we talk to, so that when they're ready to make a decision or looking for vendor selection, there's no selling involved. We've already proven it along.
And this is something that I think has changed in the world of online sales. In the past, I think people would search for something and they want to talk to somebody to learn about it. But in today's world, they can learn everything about it before they talk to somebody.
Exactly.
So they've already made up a lot of their mind, and now they're searching for the 2 or 3 people they want to decide between, and which one of these people am I going to work with? And I don't think businesses have shifted necessarily their sales and marketing to that new world of what's kind of happening.
Yeah, because what they're doing is they're looking at their internal perspective versus the external purview of them. So the business owner is saying platitudes that really don't matter. Things like, we provide great customer service. Well, we would sure hope so. Or we've been in business, right, for 30 years, where they have a dog as a mascot. The marketplace doesn't care. When you create what's called a position of market dominance, what you're doing is speaking to their problem. That's all they care about. And speaking about clearly the solution. And then again, when you're demonstrating, Rocky, that you understand that by providing the information that they want, you're right. When they make a decision, if you're the one facilitating that, you're the one they pick.
Correct. I'm a big fan of the book, They Ask You Answer. And they've kind of evolved since then. But it's the same concept of the more you educate them, the more that they see you as the expert,
Yes.
the easier that whole process goes. And you've got to be able to do that.
Completely agree.
What do you think most business owners fundamentally misunderstand about marketing today?
It's a great question. I believe that what they're mistakenly doing is trying to emulate what they see and what they hear the gurus tell them. For example, you see some of the big boys, right? They can force their message down your throat because they have millions and sometimes billions of dollars in marketing budget. And so what the small business owner is doing is they're doing the wrong things in the wrong order. No one cares about your logo. They just don't. No one cares about your colors. No one cares about your brand. But what the small business owner is doing is putting those things up front. And they're spending way too much time on, again, trying to emulate what the big boys are doing, that they're missing the opportunity to really communicate and service what it is that, again, their clients in the marketplace are looking for. And that's the biggest disconnect that I see, Rocky.
And that makes sense. They're trying to compete against what they see and what they think works. But as you said, all that stuff is very, very expensive. And it's also a strategy for reinforcement. In other words, we all know what Nike is.
Exactly.
And they're just reminding us that we need to go buy it today. We don't have that kind of money. And I see that with small business owners. They're like, well, I just need to rank for Google words or something. when we sit down and I talk to their marketing company with them, we find out what it costs to get those words. And I'm like, you can't compete. You're going to
No.
have to figure out a different way to do this, or you're just burning through money. And that's why I think so many companies burn through marketing dollars and then wonder, why didn't I get any sales?
It's a messaging problem, Rocky. It's not the marketing. There's a lot of noise out here, right? And again, the gurus say you just keep posting, you keep posting, you keep posting, or you run all these ads and they tell you to do all these things. But again, if your messaging is not connecting with the problem that your audience wants to solve and that is having them in pain, it's just noise, and then separating yourself from everyone else. I'm like, hey, you're a florist. What separates you from the other florists? And again, it's the messaging. It's the biggest challenge.
And if you want to know what separates one florist from another, check out last week's episode, because we had a florist on that has taken that industry by storm and grown it dramatically. And they've done it through kind of what you're talking about, some of those types of things. So this is, I think, the struggle. Because if I ask a business owner, what are you selling and why is your client buying? They don't always know the answer to that. They have what they think is the answer, but it's not really the answer.
I agree. And that's the thing. Typically, it's attached to something emotional, right? It's the problem behind the problem. Right. And so people will lead and think that they're solving this one thing, but really what they're solving is something radically different. And until you can connect to that emotional thing that drives that person's decision, a lot of times you're going to miss out on that opportunity.
It is. And the other thing is you have to understand the market and the demand.
Yeah.
And so when I was in the real estate rental market, I was amazed at, oh, wow, I just throw something up and people reach out to me. And it's because there's a demand. People need a house to live, right? So there was already demand in the market. And so I didn't need to try and create something. I just needed to say, hey, I'm available. And I had to put that in the right place. Otherwise, people wouldn't know. But it created the demand. The second thing is the wave. And what I mean by the wave is every industry and certain products go through a cycle. Right now, we're in the AI cycle, right? Everybody's talking about AI. Nobody's talking about horseshoes. That cycle's dead. So if you're going to sell those, it's going to be really hard to get attention. But everyone just throws AI in front of everything, whether or not it applies, and all of a sudden you're in front of the wave. But that wave actually has to have true dollars behind it. Sometimes it's a fad, right? You
Right.
get these little things that pop up and they don't pay attention. So COVID did that with, what was that bicycle that everybody bought during COVID? Peloton.
Peloton. Mhm.
Right. So they hit a fad run. They started building factories thinking the world changed. It didn't. We were just locked indoors and couldn't go to the gym. And we see how that turned out. So you have to be aware of those types of things.
Yeah.
How do you help people get a better understanding of that?
Well, because again, as I mentioned before, the marketplace will tell you. The marketplace is going to tell you. And a lot of times you have to pay attention to. I mean, we don't know what the future is going to hold. But to your point about the fad, did this industry or this boom happen as a result of something that was abnormal that's not going to last? And then you think through that. Or is this a complete shift in the way that humans are going to behave? When you see a complete shift in the way that humans are going to behave, then that's a sign that, this may be something that's going to last. And so that's one of the main things you have to look. And that takes time though, Rocky, right? I mean, because you know how a lot of people are, it's like a squirrel. Like they the next new shiny object, it's like, well, they're onto it. And so they're not thinking through the life cycle of this thing or the possibility of how long this may last. And they throw all their eggs in that basket and then unfortunately find themselves in a situation that, it's pretty dire.
Well, and I know in the world of marketing, those fads come out. We were supposed to be on Vine, and then we were supposed to be on, I forget, there was some new thing with Facebook or something. You were supposed to be on. All this stuff comes and goes, and yet we get distracted instead of focusing on what really matters. And that also brings up the question is know where your buyers are. So,
absolutely. And the thing is, when we have a problem, again, it goes back to the same core concept. When we have a problem, we look actively for where we can solve it. If you don't know the problem that people are looking to solve, you can't help them. But when you know the things that the books they're reading, the places that they're going, the the people that they look up to for advice, you can strategically position yourself in the places that they're already looking to get that thing that they don't want solved. And too many people, again, as you're mentioning, they're looking for the next quickest, fastest thing that's going to make life easy versus looking at what's practical and makes sense. What will never change is people going to solve problems. People don't like to be sold to, but they love buying and they love solving their problems. It's whoever's going to strategically position themselves where people are looking to solve their problem. If you can solve their pain and articulate that clearly, you're gonna win. You're just gonna win.
How do you know where they're hanging out?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Now, let me tell you one of the ways I look. I look on Amazon, right? I look at a particular subject and I look at the books, that, because the algorithm will show you one book and a bunch of books under that same subject matter. And then I go look at the ratings, right? Well, the people read that book because they thought that they could get this solution from this person, right? So that gives me a clue. Hey, they're looking at these different people to solve this problem. But then when the reviews are negative, you know what it tells me? Well, they didn't solve the problem. And they even said it in their own words, what they were looking for in order to get it solved. So now I have the way that they positioned it. I have the language they're using. Also know the ones who were satisfied what they got, right? And so now we start looking for like-minded people like that, like-minded subject matter, and you can find them. They're in LinkedIn groups. They're online in Facebook groups. Like I said, you can type in Google the keywords. It lists the top 10 searches that people are looking for. So all that data, it leaves you a bunch of clues of where you can go and how you can position yourself in front of these people.
You work with a lot of business coaches. What are business owners looking for usually?
They're looking for results. They're looking for somebody that they can, let me back up, because most business owners, their partner, spouse, or family doesn't understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So they're by themselves and they're alone. They're looking for someone who can see them, hear them, understand them, don't judge them, and that cares enough about them and their family and what their dreams and goals are that they're going to actually show up and help them out in a non-judgmental way. That's what the business owner wants, because then now they don't feel alone. They don't feel judged. They have someone that they can understands them and they can talk to, versus them having to put on that mask and have that fear of being exposed or judged for the things that they're supposed to know, and they maybe not. That's what I found. And when they find that person, Rocky, it's like a godsend for them.
What do you write in the ad copy to connect those two people? Like what? Yeah.
It's not necessarily the ad copy. It goes back to positioning. Who business owners are hearing a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of fake gurus, which I can't stand.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
And we've all been burned, right? So we're jaded. So a business coach is a business coach, an advisor, a consultant. The business owner looks at them as the same. So it first starts with your credibility, right? When you are a business development expert, one of the things we do for our advisors is we write them a business book. Well, why? Because the business book outlines these proven strategies that absolutely will grow a business without the business owner having to increase ad spend or marketing or all of these other things that the gurus say. So to the business owner, when they're like, wait a minute, there's multiple six figures of money hidden in my business and this author wrote about it. Well, what if I had that author just interview the business owner about what these strategies would do for the industry? Well, two things happen, Rocky. Number one, the business owner doesn't get exposed because we're not talking about their business, and it doesn't put them in a position where they are going to be judged or felt judged. The second thing it does is a compliment, because if I want their industry insights, I'm getting their opinion. They may be featured in that book. And so it starts a conversation. That's no pressure. There's no selling involved. But what happens is after this business owner is exposed in a safe environment to these simple, no and low cost strategies, well, if they're able to have a diagnostic or take a software tool, which we have, that'll find this money for them, they see it. There's no tricks. There's no, let's have a discovery call that's faked as a sales call. It's, here's the strategy. You've seen it. You saw it in the book. In your business, you're missing 180 grand. Would you like my help getting it? That's the conversation we would have. And they see an ROI attached to working with that advisor before they ever even ask them to do business. So business owners appreciate that. They appreciate that they can see it. It's real. They were part of the process. There's no hardcore close, and there's none of these fake tactics that people are, yelling about that don't work. And that's how you do it. It's just, again, you got to be where they are and you just have a real business conversation, not a fake mass discovery call.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about the fake gurus, because there's a lot of noisy people out there and they're very good at marketing and they spend a lot of money on marketing and they got some really good hard closers and they know how to sell. And what I mean by that is they know how to pressure you to make a decision that's not in your best interest.
Yes.
So how do we know?
We were given this sixth sense. And I encourage people to use it. Normally, Rock, if you think about it, I know for me personally, every time that I've purchased a service and it wasn't what they claimed, it was something in me that said something's not right here. And I didn't listen. So the first thing is that little thing, that little spidey sense that's, tugging on you. There's a difference between being skeptically intrigued, which we should be, and just knowing something's just off. So first thing is trust your senses. The second thing is, think about no one's going to give you a bad testimonial. So just because they have a bunch of testimonials, listed doesn't mean that this thing works. But you have to understand what you specifically are trying to accomplish and ask very direct, specific questions on not what to do, but how. How are we going to accomplish it? Because what and how, Rocky, as you know, there's two different questions, right? Because people tell you, well, here's what you need to do. Here's what we're going to do. What are the details? How exactly are we going to accomplish that? If they say that's our secret sauce, run. Someone should be willing to tell you exactly how they're going to get the result that they claim. And if a person can't tell me that, we just can't do business.
And that makes total sense. It's funny because I asked you about Profit First. You can read the Profit First book. It tells you exactly what to do.
Yes.
And what I bring is when they hit a friction point, they give up. And I'm like, no. I'll just show you how to get through it. Or we help you adapt it to your specific needs. And that's just one tiny part of what we do. But I've seen that many times with business owners. I also can tell because when you're on a webinar or something else and someone's selling, and 90% of it is the selling, and there's no meat being served until you pay, more often than not, that's what it is. In today's world, especially with AI, information is everywhere. You don't need information. You need to take action in a way that makes sense for you and your business. And the problem with AI is AI doesn't have a point of view. So it's not going to make a decision for you. It's just going to tell you what you want to hear, which also gets more noise into the... But then we do get sucked in. I know I occasionally get sucked in and I'll watch stuff and I'll look at it. Half the time I'm looking at it just to learn their sales process.
Yeah.
Not because I think they have anything particular to offer.
I've learned that I can spot a pitch fest, meaning here's a webinar or an event that's geared to pitch me versus someone who's truly given me like valuable information that I can implement and get a result. And one of the ways you can tell is, when it starts out, and of course, everyone's the trick is to get you involved, right? So you say, hey, if you're this person, drop this in the chat. And so everyone's starting to get involved, right? That's intentional. But then when it's starting to talk about your problem and how insert this case story of how this person used to be like you and they felt this frustration and they felt this way, but we solved it. To your point, there's no meat there. There's no meat. That's just telling you, okay, I understand you have this problem and others like you have had this problem, but what are you giving me to say, all right, we have this problem. Here's how to solve it. That's what I'm looking for. That's how you can tell when someone is really giving you good, valuable, teaching you information versus setting you up emotionally to say yes to this hidden thing that they're offering.
And I've been behind the scenes on a lot of this stuff. So the successes are people who are going to succeed no matter what.
Yes.
They just happen to be in this program and they had success, which someone else takes credit for. and that's the dirty secret. Actually, I learned in one of the things I was in, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. All these weight loss things, everyone looks wonderful. 6 weeks from looking great. You know what they did? They took a guy who was perfect, and over 6 weeks, they made him fat. and then they reverse the picture order. I'm like,
Oh.
and you can sit here on stage and say this ethically? Like, that's not something to be proud of. That's your stuff didn't work and you tricked people into it. And yet, unfortunately, that's what you see in the world. And you've got to differentiate yourself.
And people can tell. I mean, you really can. You know, when you're dealing with someone that leads with ethics, they have values and morals, they're authentic. You can tell. I mean, now, are there some people who are so good at tricking you that you may not be able to tell? Sure. But again, going back to that gut we have, you know, you can tell within, at least I can, within a few moments. It's like, okay, this is my type of person, or no, let my eyebrows, you know, the little spidey senses start to raise up. Audience, trust your gut.
What are some of the biggest issues that you see business owners struggle with, and how do they solve them?
The biggest thing I see, Rocky, is the business owner is really, really good at what they do, but they are really bad at running business. And what I mean by this, things like they're afraid of the numbers versus embracing that's the story of your business. The math and the data should be driving every decision, not your feelings and you being the producer of whatever you do. That's the biggest mistake I see. There's a big disconnect between that. Knowing their numbers, knowing the data, and making data-driven decisions versus being the technician, right? They're in there doing the thing. So that CEO, that chief everything officer, look, get someone to do your numbers. If it feels overwhelming, have them explain it to you in plain English once a month so you can make data-driven decisions. Track your metrics, your KPIs, your success metrics. Those things make your life easier, not more difficult. That's what I see, the biggest challenge.
You know, it's funny because when we sit down with our clients and we do this and we run the numbers with them, and we'll go backwards or forwards. It just depends on the particular situation.
Yeah.
Then they look at them. I'll just ask them a simple question. Is that worth the time and effort? And by looking at the numbers, more often than not, they're like, yes, hell yes, or no. And if it's maybe, it's no.
Mm-hmm.
Other times it's like, I'll have a business owner, well, I want to hit, let's just say 3 million. And they were already at maybe 1.5 million. So you need another 1.5 million. I'm like, okay, we know your average price of a product. This is what it is. So that means you need this many sales. I go, what's your close rate? And they'll tell me. And so we'll go, okay. Well, now with that close rate, this is how many qualified leads you need in order to hit this. I go, how are we going to get that many qualified leads? And have you done that before? And they look at me, go, no. I'm like, okay, so either you figure out how to get that many qualified leads or this ain't happening. And when they see that math, they set realistic goals. And then they set the company size and they're spending on realistic goals, not on running that bigger business, you know, build it and it will come. No, let it come and then we can build it behind because then you have the cash to build it.
Exactly. And that's the thing is what you're speaking of, and what I'm speaking of is these are just systems. A lot of the small business owners don't have systems. They don't have duplicatable, repeatable processes in the key areas of their business that runs the business. But that's what business is, right? And you are the one that's responsible for the strategic direction and the profitability of this entity or asset. And that's what I see. They're just, a lot of them are glorified workers. They have a glorified job a lot of times.
I get a lot of business owners who really struggle with building the repeatable system because it takes time. It may not be their skill set, which 5 years ago, I'm like, okay, today, I'm like, we got AI. There is no reason we can't build a repeatable system in not that much time with AI. That's what we like. This whole podcast behind the scenes is repeatable systems that my VA knows how to run and tell me my approval steps and everything works. And it can work for anything. I mean, when we were doing houses and flipping them, it was repeatable systems. And it wasn't that difficult. So things moved along. But I find a lot of people resist that. What do you do when business owners resist what's in their best interests?
You know, one of the first things that we do when we work with a business owner is we identify what made them fall in love with this idea of a business in the first place. And what we've discovered, Rocky, is there's a certain type of life they're going for them and their family, right? And what happens because they've been in the business, they've lost sight of that. And so they're putting out fires and they're doing all these things that they fell out of love with this idea. And so we remind them, because you can't force them to make a change. But when you remind them of what they're trying to accomplish, that they really want to be able to spend more time with their wife or with their children, they want to be a better dad or mom, right? Or husband or wife. They want to be able to travel and be financially secure and create memories. All of a sudden, there's a self-motivation to be willing to receive some support. Times the mistake is the person's trying to shove tactics and strategies down their throat, and they can't receive another tactic or strategy because they're stressed out. Their life is not going well. A lot of times their families are in peril. So that's what we do. Let's get in touch with what is driving this thing in the first place and get them reconnected to that. All of a sudden, two things happen. One, they know there's someone else out there that cares beyond just them because no one normally goes there, right? And then the second thing, it's like, wow, that becomes a motivator to do the thing that's not sexy, it's not fun, but it's necessary to get them where they want to go.
And that makes a lot of sense. That's a lot of what we do with our clients. We start actually with their childhood story. I want to learn about how they grew up with money.
Yep.
Because however they behave with money and what they learned about money is what they're doing today until they change that behavior and their expectations. And you're right. Why'd you get into the business? And is this what you imagined? And most people went into business for freedom,
Yes,
for fun, for money. And if you're not having those, then let's fix it because it is all fixable. Is there anything we should have touched base on today, but we didn't get a chance to?
I think we could spend, first of all, this has been fun. I think we could spend hours talking about so many different topics. The one thing I'm going to say is this. When you're building that business, it's lonely. No one else sees your dream the way you see your dream. And so just because others are maybe criticizing you or telling you go get a real job or they don't understand why you're doing this thing, fight through it anyway. The only way you're going to be successful is when you believe it and you believe that you're going to be successful far beyond what any other person can believe it. And only when you believe it to that level will others begin to support you. And so you can do this. It's difficult, yet it's very possible and it's rewarding. I just wanted to say that.
But you also have to share that with everyone, meaning your people. If you don't share your why and your dreams and your vision and make sure that the people you hire are in alignment with that, you're going to have nothing but trouble. You gotta make that well known and part of your hiring process. This is who we are. This is where we're going. And if that doesn't make you excited, go somewhere else because I don't need a dragger in here.
I agree. What I'd love to do if you're okay with it. I see, in your background, you're an avid reader like I am. One of the things that I want to do for your guest is my book. It's called Massive Action. What it is, it outlines these 22 no and low cost strategies that I talked about that will finance multiple six figures of hidden revenue for any small business owner. I'd like to give a copy to your actual listeners. And so if you're okay with that, I'll give you the web address.
Absolutely.
They can download it. No one's going to call them and, set up these strategy sessions. It's just a gift, that your audience can benefit from. Cool with that? All right, cool. So the website, it's 100K leak, like a leaky faucet, 100Kleak.com. And just go there again. It's called Massive Action, meaning, listen, these are no and low cost strategies. There's hidden money in your business right now. Grab the book and go get it. Put that money into your bank account.
And that's what it's all about. Is anywhere else you want to send people besides that website and that book?
No, that's it. That's the gift. They can go there. And obviously if they, when they see value, if they have questions, there's an advisor that can help answer anything, help them prioritize. And, but the book is pretty straightforward. They should be able to get tremendous value.
Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Rocky.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to this unedited video of the Profit Answer Man podcast. If you'd like to catch the full episode and learn more about what we do, check us out at ProfitComesFirst.com. We also go through the Profit First book in each and every chapter in the beginning episodes of the podcast, so check those out as well. Thanks for listening, and here's to you having a more profitable and growing business.